morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, the scandal in Minnesota now is metastasizing really into one of the greatest scandals, not just of our time, but as I just mentioned, if you look at the amount now that they are discovering in theft, in embezzlement, in immigration fraud, in welfare cheating, where literally billions and billions of dollars have now, of taxpayer money, has been outright stolen. I'm talking looted, pillaged, and either embezzled back to Somalia, or in many cases, right into the pockets of crooks and corrupt people within the Somali community in Minneapolis, St. Paul. This is now a scandal of the highest proportions. It has now engulfed Tampon Tim Walz, the governor. It is now engulfing Ilhan Omar. Some people did something. And frankly, the entire leadership of the Minnesota Democratic Party. This is a Democrat scandal. And now, what many are saying is that what happened in Minnesota is being replicated in New York, in Illinois, in California, and yes, here in Massachusetts, in the People's Republic of Massachusetts. In other words, what happened in Minnesota didn't stay in Minnesota. This is now something that Republicans are demanding investigations into many, many other Democrat-run states, because it appears this has been rampant and this is now proliferating, and it has been copied in other Democrat blue states. So here is now the absolute latest. Tim Walz, Tampon Tim, is desperately trying to contain this public firestorm as revelations after revelations after revelations now expose one of the greatest welfare fraud schemes in U.S. history. We now have 86 individuals who have either been convicted in court or charged with, and by the way, of those 86, 78 are Somalis, okay, or Somali Americans. So it is an overwhelmingly Somali problem, not exclusively, but it is 90% of the fraudsters so far they come from the Somali community in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Now, on top of all this, what they're finding out is that they created these fake NGOs, agencies, who were falsely billing. I'm talking everything under the sun. Medicaid services. Billions of dollars in Medicaid fraud. They claimed that they were driving people to their appointments. In fact, those appointments were phantom appointments. They made them up. To show you how diabolical this whole scheme was, there is a pot of money, I'm talking over $100 million, set aside to help autistic kids in Minnesota. What they did was they told other parents to sign their kids up as being quote-unquote autistic, even though they weren't. And then they would bill the department that is responsible for this in Minnesota, the Medicaid department, and literally they would pretend that they're being driven to see people for one-on-one help, that they were paying for the transportation, they were paying for everything. In fact, no one was being helped, no one was being driven anywhere, no one needed to be helped because the children were overwhelmingly non-autistic. And then the parents got kickbacks. Many of them as much as up to $1,500 a month. All they had to do was put little Jimmy on their list. That's it. Literally, that's it. So they just kept billing and billing and billing and billing. and nobody asked any questions. Or rather, they asked, and then when they realized what the answer was, they deliberately turned a blind eye. They literally took Medicaid money under the guise of providing, I swear to you, housing. Housing. Claiming that, well, sick people, you really want to help them get, bounce back into society? Give them a roof over their head. Guess what happened? The money was stolen and siphoned off. And where did the money go? Now they find they bought luxury cars. They bought Mercedes, BMWs, SUVs. They bought real estate, commercial, residential real estate in Minneapolis. They bought real estate, I swear to you, in Kenya and in Turkey. With our money. Medicaid fraud, welfare fraud, food stamp fraud. One of the biggest is something called Feeding Our Future. This was a child nutrition program to feed hungry kids. They raided from Feeding Our Future. They literally stole lunch money from kids. We are now talking billions of dollars in outright theft. This is theft. And a lot of it was then embezzled and sent back to Somalia, to members of the government, to warlords, to Islamist militias led by Al-Shabaab, which is an Al-Qaeda affiliate, which, by the way, just recently they went on another rampage slaughtering Christians in that part of the world. So they go village to village to village, and they slaughter innocent older men, women, and children. And that's where our taxpayer money was going, or at least parts of it. The scandal now is so big. Democrats in Minnesota are now telling Tim Walz, don't run for a third term, you're going to lose. It is now bringing in the Secretary of State. It is bringing in the Attorney General. It is bringing in Ilhan Omar. It is bringing in now literally the top people of the Democratic Party in Minnesota. Minnesota, which used to be known as the land of 10,000 lakes, is now being redefined and now being called the land of 10,000 frauds. I want you to listen now. Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent was interviewed, and he says, all of this now that we're finding out is not because Minnesotan officials, Minnesotans, under Walz's administration, took any kind of initiative to investigate. In fact, quite the opposite. Tim Walz was told repeatedly about what was going on, and he punished whistleblowers. He retaliated against whistleblowers. And he certainly turned a blind eye. But he said, no. It was done through the IRS. And now we're finding out that these fraudsters donated to some people, did something, and to Tampon Tim, and to the Attorney General Keith Ellison. These fraudsters were sending their money to Omar, to Tim Walz, to Keith Ellison in campaign contributions. It was pay to play. I keep sending you campaign cash. You keep turning a blind eye. Roll cut 9, a mic.
What exactly are you investigating?
Well, Margaret, to be clear, the initial fraud that was discovered by the IRS, for which I'm the acting commissioner, is discovered by IRS Criminal Investigations Unit. This was not an endogenous thing that the state of Minnesota decided we had to go in and clean up the mess for them, and this is part of the continued cleanup. A lot of money has been transferred from the individuals who committed this fraud, including those who donated to the governor, donated to Representative Omar, and donated to A.G. Ellison. But they've been transferred to something called MBSs, and those are...
Mortgage-backed security? What do you mean?
Sorry?
Transferred to what?
These are money, the Bureau services, and they are wire transfer organizations that are outside the regulated banking system. And that money has gone overseas, and we are tracking that both to the Middle East and to Somalia to see what the uses of that have been.
They were funding Islamist terrorists and warlords. They were funding mass murderers. They were funding Islamist groups that literally murder, massacre Christians or any one of their political opponents. And it was done by U.S. taxpayers. Now the crisis is out of control. They cannot contain it. The country knows and the world knows. Okay, it is now a massive, massive scandal. It is the biggest welfare fraud scandal in American history, and it appears we are only still at the tip of the iceberg. We are now into the billions of dollars. Some say now it could reach into double-digit billions, and this is just in the state of Minnesota. So I just want to give you a taste now of what is being uncovered. And so here is now the absolute latest. There are now 87 individuals. Forgive me, I said 86 in my monologue. They've just indicted someone else over the weekend. 87 individuals and counting. We're talking, this is going to go, these numbers are going to explode. But anyway, so far, 87 individuals, several dozens of whom have already been convicted in federal court. So these aren't just accusations, these are convictions. Have been charged with defrauding Medicaid. They also were defrauding SNAP and the Federal Child Nutrition Program. That's Feeding Our Future. That's the infamous program that they were looting in Minnesota. As one of the attorneys for a defendant admitted in an interview with the New York Times, quote, talking about Waltz and the Democrats and people who worked under him. Quote, no one was doing anything about the red flags. It was like someone was stealing money from the cookie jar, and they just kept refilling it. And so what they did was, like, for example, there was a group called Feeding Our Future. They apparently would be recruiting individuals, and what they did was they set up sham companies and sites that claimed to be feeding children, especially lunch money, to make sure they all had a proper lunch during the pandemic. But they weren't feeding anybody. The scammers then literally submitted false invoices, and they started to put fake names on their website. And so when state officials began looking into this, because there's a few honest bureaucrats out there, and they're like, no, this doesn't look right to me. That's a lot of kids. And when we track down the names of them, none of them seem to be going to the school or affiliated with the school that they say they're helping to feed. So when they started to flag these suspect filings, Feeding Our Future cried racial discrimination. All they had to do was say racism, because they were run by Somalis. And everybody backed down, and the money kept flowing. And then what they did was they laundered the money, as I mentioned in my opening monologue. And they bought, you name it, $100,000 SUVs, luxury Mercedes, BMW vehicles. They bought up commercial residential real estate all across Minnesota. They bought land and real estate, and good land and real estate, in Kenya and Turkey. They spent money like you wouldn't believe. And that's how they kept laundering the money. Now, listen to this. In another scheme, a 28-year-old woman, a Somali, allegedly launched this company called Smart Therapy. What's Smart Therapy, you may ask? Jeff, what the hell's going on in Minnesota? Well, listen to this. It claimed to provide one-on-one behavioral therapy to autistic children. But what she really did was she employed relatives with no formal education, no training whatsoever, and then, as I said earlier, recruited parents to enroll their non-autistic kids in her therapy sessions by paying them kickbacks of $1,500 a month per child. You can't make this up. So, Medicaid was the big one, though. They were billing Medicaid for everything. You're a drug addict, they'd say, you know what? We got to find housing for drug addicts or recovering addicts. So they laundered hundreds of millions of dollars to enrich themselves just through the Minnesota Medicaid housing program. And of course, all of these drug addicts were never given a home. They were never put under any roof. All the money did was flow into their pockets. Now, I could go on and on and on. This is what I mean now when I say Minnesota is no longer the land of 10,000 lakes. It's now become the land of 10,000 frauds. The question now is, Ilhan Omar, what did she know and when did she know it? Well, now reports are coming out. Listen to this. Reports are now coming out that tens of millions of dollars were laundered through her husband's firm. She's married to a white man, some kind of moonbat liberal. And that money was laundered through her husband's firm, through Somali-linked networks, in which the husband was able to rake in tens and tens of millions of dollars. And of course, they share a bank account. Money is fungible because no one can answer a simple question. How is it that Ilhan Omar in 2020 was worth $65,000? And now, 5 years later, she is worth her and her husband are worth north of $230 million. I'll tell you how. They stole money. Okay, I want to make a quick correction. My bad. Ilhan Omar's worth, I said 230 million. I'm sorry, it's 30 million. Forgive me, I thought I said 30, but I guess it came out 230. Anyway, it's $30 million. So, amid all of this fraud, again, we're talking now billions of dollars, almost double-digit billions. We're looking now at maybe 10 billion, and that's just in Minnesota. It's been revealed that Ilhan Omar's net worth, some people did something, has exploded. In 2020, it was at $65,000. That was her net worth. It is now over $30 million. 30 million. And a lot of it has come through the money that has been siphoned through or embezzled through her husband's firm. So there's no question now. She's dirty. She's corrupt. She has to be arrested. And it's not just her. I'm going to go after other politicians. You're going to see throughout the show, there's a scandal now brewing in Maine with the Somali community, and it's touching now Governor Janet Mills. So this is not just in Minnesota, but let's just stay on Minnesota for a second. So now that all of this is coming out, how deep and wide the fraud went, and how 90% of it was in the Somali American community. Ilhan Omar who, and by the way, it's her district that is the epicenter of all of these fraud schemes. She personally knew almost every organization, every business, every individual involved. So for her to now claim that she's outraged by this or she had no idea, she's a liar and nobody believes her. Well, listen now to this. She now is doing the media rounds, desperately trying to save her reputation and her career. So this is her on CBS with Margaret Brennan just yesterday, and she's being asked point blank, look, it's an overwhelmingly Somali issue. 90%, all but 8 of the 87 who've been indicted or charged are of Somali descent. And this was in your community. What do you say to the fact that there's something going on in that Somali community? Listen now to Ilhan Omar's response. Roll cut 30, a mic.
Of the 87 people charged, all but 8 are of Somali descent. And that has added to the spotlight being put specifically on your community. Why do you think this fraud was allowed to get so widespread?
Well, I want to say, this also has an impact on Somalis because we are also taxpayers in Minnesota. We also could have benefited from the program and the money that was stolen. And so it's been really frustrating for people to not acknowledge the fact that we're also, as Minnesotans, as taxpayers, really upset and angry about the fraud that has occurred.
Yeah, but most of the fraud came from the Somali community, of which you and your husband got tens and tens of millions of dollars of. Like you're obviously she's completely dodging the question. That's number one. Number two, I'm sorry, if nearly 90% of the Somali community in Minneapolis, St. Paul are on welfare, how many taxpayers do you have? You're a complete net drain. It's not even close. And to me, look, this is the part that is to me most disgusting. The money that was stolen, I don't care if it's Medicaid fraud, SNAP, food stamps, child nutrition programs, this money was set aside by taxpayers to take care of the neediest Americans, of Americans who are the poorest, the most vulnerable, the neediest. You stole from them. You stole from them. And now what they've done is they've basically drained our welfare state. What's amazing is, after all of this money being spent, Minnesota is practically broke. Other states that are being, I'm telling you, California, it's even worse. It's all going to come out. This is all going to come out now. The welfare state in California is even more broke than the one in Minnesota. And the one here in Massachusetts is just as broke as in California. So what they've done is they have drained our welfare system to the point that we can't even provide basic social services to people who truly need them because they stole so much of the money. Now, all she can do and all the Somalis are doing now, which is to me the most disgusting of all, okay? Disgust upon disgust upon disgust upon disgust. Now they're playing the racist card. You see, they come here and they mooch off the land, and many of them commit immigration fraud and welfare fraud, and they refuse to assimilate. And like leeches, they're just, sucking off the host and every single program they can get their hands on. And then when they're caught red-handed, racism. That's the one thing the Democrats taught them. Always play the race card. And if you play the race card, these stupid, guilt-ridden liberals will say, okay, and they'll look the other way. And as the attorney for one of the clients said, They just keep refilling that cookie jar, and you just keep grabbing it. Grab, and they refill. Grab, and they refill. So, listen now to some people said something. Margaret Brennan asks her, well, what's the reaction in your district to President Trump calling the, many members of the Somali community garbage, especially those that engaged in this fraud? What's your answer? Here she goes. Roll cut 31, a mic.
I just wonder what the reaction is in your district to have that from the highest office in the land.
It's disgusting. It's completely disgusting. These are Americans that he is calling garbage. And we feel like there is an unhealthy obsession that he has on the Somali community, and an unhealthy and creepy obsession that he has with me. I think it is also really important for us to remember that this kind of hateful rhetoric and this level of dehumanizing can lead to dangerous actions by people who listen to the president.
Right. So tell me, some people did something. When then President Joe Biden publicly and repeatedly called Trump and all 75 million of his voters, MAGA, literally half the country, garbage. When he called us garbage, you remember during the campaign, Trump was there with a garbage truck driving around to prove the point that he's calling us garbage? Okay? So when Biden called us garbage, you said nothing. How about when Biden called us all Nazis? You want to talk about dehumanizing and delegitimizing? What did you say? You joined in. You called us Nazis. You called us garbage. You called us white supremacists. You called us fascists. But now, when you're getting called out on your fraud and your theft and your embezzlement, on the fact that you've been ripping us off and sending billions of dollars back to Somalia, who, according to you, that's your real country. That's your real allegiance. That's your homeland. Suddenly, it's disgusting. He's putting us all in danger. He has a creepy obsession with me. Don't take yourself too seriously, honey, okay? Really. Hey, now, in her warped mind, like what, I'm sorry, you think Trump has a sexual thing for you? Like, what do you think you're some kind of a model now? Like, lady, you are really sick in the head. No one cares about the Somali community, and no one cares about you. We just don't like frauds and grifters and traitors. That's all. That's all. I know maybe in the Somali community where you're from, it's not such a big deal. But where we come from, marrying your brother, no, it no good. It no good. Okay? Committing immigration fraud, it no good. Stealing tens and tens of millions of dollars, it no good. Calling the country that brought you in and gave you relief and running them down and saying this is an evil, racist country, it no good. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I just want to read one text, and then we're going to go right back to the phone lines. Actually, going to go to the phone lines. 617-266-6868. There's a couple lines still open if you want to jump on. Okay, this is from 781. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470. 70470. Jeff, this is Elon's net worth. In 2020, 65,000. 2021, 65,000. 2022, 115,000. 2023, 205,000. 2024, $30 million. Jeff, I'll let you draw your own conclusions. 617-266-6868. Chuck in Dighton. You're going to kick us off, Chuck. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Love you, buddy.
Thank you, Chuck.
Jeff, I just wanted to comment, and I'm like at my job right now. I got to walk in, but I just wanted to comment. You know, I've heard, so much about the Democratic Party, all the wrongs they're doing, everything that's happening. And it comes to a point where it's the boy who cried wolf. I am so tired of hearing what they've done with the proof that they've done it and everything that's going on. We've got to get these people in jail in order to set the example of what is going to come and go down. I am tired of hearing they did this, they did that, we have the proof, but nothing ever happens. If anything, if Omar goes to jail for what she's done, it is a start, and it is a thing to show the American people that the Republican Party, they mean business, and the crap is finally going to hit the fan because we're getting tired of hearing about it with no reaction on the backside.
Oh, Chuck, I agree with you. As I like to say, you're not 100%, you're 1,000% correct. Look, again, this is up to Attorney General Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, and we're going to see what they're made of. But look, Chuck, what is stunning to everybody is the amount of fraud. There's corruption, yes, but we are talking about an unbelievable amount of money. And the worst part is there's probably even more fraud in other states. Minnesota is only a state of 5.8 million. It's really, in terms of population, it's a much smaller state, even than Massachusetts. Never mind if you get into New York and Illinois and California. So this is our government in action. This is what Elon Musk was telling us about Doge. He goes, you have no idea how much of our taxpayer money has been used, misused, abused, stolen, pillaged, looted. And you see, Chuck, this is the problem with the welfare state. And I'm all for helping Americans in need. I truly am, I swear. But there's so much money now sloshing around, and they're incentivizing laziness and dependency that it's almost irresistible. And, it's not just the Somali community. You have so many groups now, both, native born and foreign born. It's both. The temptation is just, you can basically not work and get, $4,000 a month in welfare, EBT, free food, free health care, free housing, free everything. Why work? And then if you're really creative like these Somalis, you can steal millions, if not tens of millions of dollars. What say you?
Oh, I agree with you 100%. But before I walk into my job, Jeff, I just got to say, we've known for years, that the government, would basically piss our money away on stupid things and overpriced things and give it to other countries and so on and so forth. I am tired of giving my money to the federal government and to watch us still be in trillions of dollars of debt. If I had an accountant that did what the government does with my money, I would fire them in an instant. Why do we keep doing this and keep giving our money to our government that is supposedly supposed to be looking out for the American people, but yet they put us in debt every single day?
Amen. Chuck, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Let me just ask all of you this, and I promise I want to go right back to the phone lines. 617-266-6868. They stole from autistic children. There's no question now. They stole, I don't want to sound like a Democrat, but really, literally, they stole from the children. They stole their lunch money. They stole money that should have gone for health care for poor people. They stole money that was supposed to go to feed hungry Americans, not just children, but even SNAP in the food stamp program. Their corruption knows no end. It's billions and billions and billions of dollars. And now we're finding out so much of it was sent to warlords and Islamic terrorist groups who then perpetrated mass murder in Somalia. What is it going to take? And that Walz was told repeatedly, there are now over 100 whistleblowers who have come out, 100 whistleblowers who have come out and said, this has been going on for years. And we told Walz all about it. And when we told him, he said, if you open your mouth or go to the media, we will destroy you. He threatened out-and-out retaliation and intimidation. In other words, he knew he didn't care. And now we're finding out that money was flowing into his campaign coffers. We have the Attorney General, Keith Ellison, who, by the way, is a Muslim. He was the first Muslim member of Congress. Deep ties to the Somali Muslim community, who on tape said, I will protect you. This is to the fraudsters. I will protect you. Just cut those checks to my campaign. So this was at the highest levels of the Minnesota Democratic Party, at the highest levels of the Minnesota government. And I'll play you the cut. Here's James Comer. I want to go to the phones after this. Here is the House Oversight Chair, James Comer, saying, look, I'm telling you, this massive fraud scheme, this multi-billion-dollar fraud scheme, which is the biggest welfare fraud in American history, it's just the tip of the iceberg. Wait till we get to California or Illinois or New York, and I'm telling you, Massachusetts and Maine. I want to get to Maine later in the show. What's going on there with the Somali community? Because Americans are not going to believe. We're looking at a potentially $1 trillion scandal. $1 trillion. And you want to know why we're in debt? You want to know why we're running $2 trillion deficits? Because look at the money that's being wasted and stolen and embezzled. Listen now to Comer. Roll cut 117, Mike.
The whole fraud scheme is wrong, and we want to bring those state employees in. We want to talk to them. We want to see all the correspondence that was had between the state agencies and the governor and the attorney general to see why they did not do anything at that particular moment. Such a disregard for taxpayer dollars is criminal in itself. But to do it for political gain, that's even worse. Hopefully, we can set an example and hold people accountable for this type of negligent abuse of tax dollars, because I think this is not just a Minnesota thing. I think you're going to see this in other blue states that all they talk about, these Democrat governors, is more and more social programs, more and more SNAP benefits, more and more Medicaid, but yet they refuse to admit that there's any level of fraud. So hopefully this is the tip of the iceberg, and I think this investigation could lead to many more investigations in other states and hopefully finally some savings of taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, but see, look, I'm with Comer, don't get me wrong, but we're not talking just about abuse. This is theft. This is not just, we meant well, but a couple of characters here or there got a little carried away. No. We're talking about this is looting. This is pillaging. This is theft. It's embezzlement and it's theft. It's third world style, mass industrial scale corruption. That's what this is. I'm like, people need to go to jail. Chuck and Dighton is completely right. Now, look, the reason why Walz knew and did nothing, and Keith Ellison, the AG, knew and did nothing, and of course, Elon, some people did something, Omar, and did nothing, and on, because not only were they benefiting from it, and we're going to find out very soon. We've got Omar now at 30 million and counting. We're going to find out how much Tampon Tim, how much he was putting his nose in the trough. Okay? Because I'm sure he was wetting his beak, as the Sicilian mob likes to say. Okay? But it's not just that. It's the fact that, think about for the Minnesota Democrats. Here's your choice. Either you expose all of this fraud and send people to jail, or you win elections. Like, take your pick. Because the fact of the matter is, in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, there are 107,000 Somalis, okay, that we know of, according to the census. They are overwhelmingly in Minneapolis, St. Paul. In fact, they're in certain districts in Minneapolis, St. Paul. That voting bloc goes overwhelmingly Democrat. They deliver again and again and again. So, and if you look at the margins of victory, Tim Walz won last time, single digits, 7%. You look at the AG and the Secretary of State, it was less than 1%. So they openly admit it in Minnesota. Without the Somali vote, Tim Walz would lose. Keith Ellison would lose. Ilhan Omar would lose. Statewide offices would be gone. They would lose U.S. Senate races. So they need the Somali community. And that's why they were shoveling money at him. They were buying votes. In fact, there's a very good aggressive newspaper. It's not the Star Tribune. That's garbage. That's like their version of the Boston Globe or the New York Times. But there's a very good aggressive paper that actually sent out a reporter who interviewed people in the Democratic Party and in the Somali community in particular. And in the reporter's words, not mine, the reporter's words, he says the Democrats described the process of dealing with the Somali community in Minneapolis, St. Paul, as, quote, Americans engaged with tribal chieftains in Afghanistan during our time there. That nobody who doesn't speak Somali understands what really goes on behind the scenes. So they bring in they get a couple of political organizers who are Somalis. They pay them a front load of money, and then they give them this money, and apparently like tribal chieftains, I'm not kidding, because it's broken down by tribe and by clan, and certain tribes live in certain neighborhoods and certain clans live in other neighborhoods. Anyway, it's all described. You're like, this is a third world country. And they're going and they say, okay, so this clan responds to this guy, this tribe responds to this guy, they speak that dialect, they speak a different dialect, anyway. And then they go, something happens. Obviously, money is exchanged, but nobody knows because it's only those that speak Somali that know exactly what's taking place. They go, but money is sent, the organizers go into these communities, Somalis, and then on election day, it is the most reliable voting bloc anywhere in the state and in the country. So phase one, a ton of cash. Phase two, a big question mark because we don't know what the hell's going on behind the scenes. Phase three, they're all voting Democrat. And Democrats keep getting elected. So that's why Tim Walz is not going to do an honest, thorough investigation. And neither is Ellison. You have to bring in the feds. Because they'd be cutting themselves off at the knees. You expose this fraud and cut off the money welfare supply. It's like you haven't bought off the loyalties of the tribal chieftains. They're not going to vote for you. End of story. So that's why they're not going to get to the bottom of this. That's why it's going to take Pam Bondi, and it's going to take an aggressive DOJ, and it's going to take a tremendous amount of pressure from the Trump administration. I don't agree, disagree. 617-266-6868. CJ in Boston. Thanks for holding, CJ, and welcome.
All the way to Minnesota to catch frauds. During COVID, former Governor Charlie Baker directed COVID money to pay for unemployment benefits, which ended up in Maura Healey making this settlement with the federal government for $2.1 billion over the next 10 years. That's right. It started here in Massachusetts with former Governor Baker taking that COVID money and, catch this, mistakenly diverted money for unemployment benefits. So here in Massachusetts, we're on the hook for $2.1 billion in a settlement that Maura Healey made with the federal government, and this settlement was made just days before Joe Biden left office. If this doesn't scream an investigation by the federal government and the Justice Department, Jeff, I don't know what does. But I believe it continues not only with these unemployment benefits that were illegally diverted. I believe it goes with the housing for illegals and other federal programs that Massachusetts is utilizing right now. Now, Governor Haley was the Attorney General at the time when this happened. So apparently she didn't have her headlights on when this
CJ, can you hang on, please? I want you to finish your point. It's an excellent point. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, we're going to go right back to CJ, and just to tee it up for CJ, because he was making, I thought, a really a good point, a brilliant point, actually. This corruption started with Baker in terms of the pandemic money, and obviously with Maura Healey as the Attorney General, billions of dollars sloshing around, no accountability, no guardrails. Well, this is from David on Messenger, and he's referring obviously to the ballot initiative that passed in 2024 last year, in which 72% of mass voters voted for an audit of the state government and all of its spending. And of course, Beacon Hill and Maura Healey are refusing to comply. This is from David. Good morning, Jeff. When 72% vote for an audit and the governor refuses to comply, wake the blank up, people. You're dead on. You're dead on. Obviously, if they don't want if they're going to defy the will of the people and defy, this was Democrats, Republicans, Independents, 72%. Who agrees on 72% for anything? And they're going to defy a ballot initiative, literally a referendum, the will of the people. So that tells you everything you need to know. They're covering up what we're seeing in Minnesota. They know is exactly the same thing that's happening in Massachusetts. The only question now is it a little worse or a little better? That's it. In other words, is it 10 billion, 8 billion, 12 billion? How much are they stealing of our money? That's the only question. Okay, let's go right back to CJ in Boston. CJ, you were on a roll saying that this all started with Baker. They were using scams regarding the unemployment, all kinds of other benefits during the pandemic. Billions of dollars were just gone, disappeared. Please pick up where you left off.
Well, Jeff, the question is was the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Baker and his administration, under a federal investigation? Because they came to an agreement just before Biden left office to pay $2.1 billion, short of the $3 billion that Baker used. That's the question. So I have to say that I don't care what demographic you are, what religion you are, what political affiliation you are. If the theft of your tax dollars doesn't mean anything to you, if it doesn't sicken you, then I think something is wrong here, Jeff. I think the U.S. Attorney in Boston and the FBI need to look into whether or not there was an investigation done by the Biden administration, but more importantly, whether or not any investigation was done legally in coming to this agreement of $2.1 billion. As for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and our great state auditor, Ms. Zoglio, the state legislature here has shielded themselves under the state constitution from being audited by anyone. Now, if that doesn't scream RICO Act, I don't know what it is. So a gentleman once told me many years ago, he said to me, CJ, he says, you know, they call us wise guys. They call us organized crime. He says the real organized crime is sitting up on Beacon Hill, because when they don't like a law, they can change a law.
Or ignore a law. Or ignore the result of a referendum, which is illegal and unconstitutional. CJ, as always, you are spot on. Thank you so much for that call. Mark in Medford. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
The fucking thing? Hey, what's up, Jeff?
Mark, how are you, my friend? What do you make of all this, buddy?
Well, first of all, Jeff, let's get things correct. It's not Omar's husband's firm. It's Omar's brother's firm. Okay? Now, Jeff, when all this comes to a head, and it's all proven to be true, Tampon Tim and Incest Omar need to be charged and arrested with fraud against the state of Minnesota, fraud against the United States of America, embezzlement, and then while you're at it, you add a couple of additional fraud charges for immigration, and then marriage fraud for Omar. Because you cannot tell me that they had nothing to do with this, Jeff. You do not turn a blind eye when you know there's fraud and illegal crimes being committed unless there's something in it for you.
Mark, I think the $64,000 question is, because there's no question they're guilty of sin. It's all coming out. I mean, it gets to the point, it's stomach turning when you just see the extent of the theft and the fraud, the embezzlement, the welfare cheating, the stealing. The question is, do you think we're going to get justice? Let's leave out Tampon Tim, Ilhan Omar. Will they finally arrest her and deport her? What say you? Will it happen? Or do you think this is just another pipe dream?
Jeff, that's up to Pam Bondi. I mean, she seems to have no problem, Jeff, and I noticed this. It's like a pattern with her. Like when they arrested the D.C. pipe bomber, okay? It's just a regular guy. She has no problem arresting the regular people.
It's the powerful people. Okay, in the midst of all of this, what is remarkable is no one so far has resigned. No one's being held accountable. They're not even, Amy Klobuchar, the senator from Minnesota, has just endorsed Ellison for re-election. I'm telling you, you can't make this up. So what they're saying is, we see the fraud, we know about the fraud, and we don't care. It's amazing what's going on. Now, Ilhan Omar was asked point blank by Margaret Brennan on CBS yesterday about Stephen Miller, President Trump's top political advisor, about that Somalis aren't assimilating. It's not just the United States. It's not just Canada. Whether it's Norway, it's Denmark, it's England, wherever they go, generation after generation, they are, I mean, yes, some are, but overall, the community is not assimilating. And this is a major problem. Listen now to some people did something. Listen to her response. Roll cut 32, Mike.
What do you make of this argument failure to assimilate and sort of ruining America. How do you understand this?
I mean, when I think about Stephen Miller and his white supremacist rhetoric, it reminds me of the way the Nazis described Jewish people in Germany.
Yeah, Miller's Jewish. So that's the new thing now. They're calling Miller a Nazi Jew. I swear. You can't make this stuff up. So look, that's all they know. Notice, it's all insults, it's all put-downs, it's all ad hominems, but they never address any of the core issues. And here is the problem. The epicenter of this fraud is in the Somali community in Minneapolis, and it's Ilhan Omar is a part of it. Leading members of that community are a part of it, and now it's being tied, and it's dragging down top members of the Minnesota Democratic Party. Now, you can call us white supremacists, racists, Islamophobes, xenophobic, Nazis, whatever you want to call us. Fraud is fraud is fraud. Theft is theft is theft. Embezzlement is embezzlement is embezzlement. And the question now Ilhan Omar has to answer is, how the hell are you now worth $30 million? And the question Tampon Tim has to answer, when all this was taking place right under your nose, and whistleblower after whistleblower, 46 whistleblowers, wrote you emails, text messages, personally spoke to you, and told you this was taking place. And not only did you do nothing, you threatened them with their careers and their jobs, losing their jobs and their careers. What did you know, and when did you know it? Listen now to Tampon Tim. He was asked at a press conference, well, what did you know? Do you bear any responsibility? Listen to Tampon Tim's non-answer. Roll cut 33. Mike.
We've acknowledged that this is serious, needs to stop. It is stopping. People are continuing to go to prison. I think the good news for Minnesotans to know when that 90-day pause is over and the third-party audits are done, we will have a better picture than we've ever had, which I think is really good.
I mean, yeah, okay. Yeah, we don't need the third-party audits. We've got convictions in court, dozens and dozens of convictions. And we've got more than enough information to know we're talking billions of dollars in fraud. And you enabled it, and you aided, and you abetted it. No, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I'm not going to be shocked if he personally benefited. Like Ilhan Omar. I want to see how much he's worth. I want to know how much is Tampon Tim Waltz worth. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree? Okay, listen now to President Trump. This was him at the White House, and he's not backing down at all. Asked about his calling the Somali community in Minnesota or Minneapolis, especially those that engaged in that fraud scheme, quote unquote, garbage. Listen now to Trump when he's asked. Jacob Frey, the Moonbat mayor of Minneapolis, says, in fact, contrary to being garbage, he's proud to have the largest Somalian community in the country. Listen to Trump's response. Roll cut 103, Mike.
The mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, is saying that he's actually proud to have the largest Somali community in the country, and his police chief...
Well, then he's a fool.
Well, his police chief is also saying...
I wouldn't be proud to have the largest Somalian. Look at their nation. Look how bad their nation is. It's not even a nation. It's just people walking around killing each other. Look, these Somalians have taken billions of dollars out of our country. They've taken billions and billions of dollars.
617-266-6868. Derek in Brighton. Thanks for holding, Derek, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff.
Hi, Derek.
Yeah, I like your show. Listen, I have a question. I wanted to go back to you mentioned earlier about Baker having what was it? 2-point-something billion dollars.
2.1 billion.
I kind of missed that. That he was covering up or something.
What Baker did, and how do I say this? Personally, being a witness to it, I think is too strong or not quite accurate phrasing. But part of the pandemic scheme was they were just giving out unemployment benefits to people left, right, and center. And they knew that it was a fraud. They knew that a lot of people were still collecting a check from their work, but also collecting unemployment. Or they were giving money to people who literally were not working, and they knew they were not working. So anyway, so it was there was at least $2.1 billion that Baker sent out that literally should never have been sent out. And nobody cared. They were throwing good money after bad. And I'll just give you a quick example, Derek. This was at the height of the pandemic. Baker was still governor. It was before Maura Healey became governor, but she was attorney general. And so we were all cooped up in the house, didn't want us to be in the house anymore. So, and the children, of course, were away from school because they had shut down all the schools, which turns out to have been a colossal mistake. Okay, but let that go. We went to a local tavern pub for lunch, and it's right near our house. And so we went in, had a couple of cheeseburgers. I had a club sandwich, a couple of Diet Cokes. And so Ava, Ashton, my wife, and I, and we're talking. And right behind me were 3 state employees. And I know this because I briefly spoke to them. And they all work for the government. All 3 of them, when the check came, now they had a couple of beers, they had they had their meals, lifted a toast, and they said, "To Baker, the best governor in Massachusetts." And when I asked them, why do you guys think he's the best governor in Massachusetts? They said, because we're getting a regular paycheck and we're just staying at home and we're doing absolutely nothing. Literally nothing. We're not working from home. We're not doing anything. In fact, they were laughing, saying that the taxpayer just paid for their lunch. And so they were going on about what a great governor Baker is at the time, because they're going out to lunch almost every day, guzzling beer, eating cheeseburgers, and they don't got a care in the world. So they sent out money after money after money, check after check after check. They didn't do a thing. They were completely and utterly unproductive. And this went on for a couple of years. Okay, Tim Walz now in very serious trouble. He is now engulfed in what many are saying is the greatest welfare fraud scandal in American history. And the shocking thing, it looks like we may just have discovered only the tip of the iceberg. We're at billions of dollars in fraud. We're now looking maybe eventually at double-digit billions, i.e. 10, 11, 12, God knows. And that's just for a small state like Minnesota. Again, population 5.8 million. And it's welfare fraud, food stamp fraud, Medicaid fraud, child nutrition program fraud. They stole from autistic children. I'm not kidding. People who are drug addicts or recovering addicts who needed a place to stay to help them recover. They swindled them. They false invoices, repeated double, triple, quadruple billing. Those that were disabled, they claimed that they were driving them to appointments or giving them transportation. They never did. I could go on and on. Medicaid fraud, food stamp fraud, the school lunch program. They weren't feeding any kids. They stole the money. A lot of it sent back to Somalia. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to ask you the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. What will happen to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as a result of the benefits fraud scandal involving Somalis? A, he will be impeached. B, he will resign. Or C, he will survive in office to run again. He wants to run next November for an unprecedented third term. And the polls right now, 47-47. Now, we'll see what the fallout of this scandal is going to lead to, but right now it is 47-47. I want to know who the 47 are. 47% of Minnesotans are going to back this buffoon, this absolute imbecile. Ay, 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 really. Ay, ay, ay. All right, so what do you think will happen? A, Tampon Tim will be impeached. B, he will resign. C, he will survive to run again. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in National ER. You can also vote via X, and last night, very active on X. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhn as in National ER. Betty in Lexington. Thanks for holding, Betty, and welcome.
Morning. So I come at this at a few ways. I work for a healthcare system. I'm support staff. I worked the whole pandemic, sometimes by myself as support staff, because either my coworkers were let go because they wouldn't take a jab, or because they were just afraid because they had a lot of comorbidities, which I understand, and they sat home and took a paycheck. I also have about 12 comorbidities. I worked the tents. I was there the whole time, and it was a privilege to help people during that time. But let me tell you something. We didn't get sick. We were worried every day. People that I worked with were living in their cars so they wouldn't bring it home to their family. And when we finally got sick, maybe 3 years in, sorry, there's no money left. You have to use your own PTO. I hired him to discover all this stuff. I want him to be cutthroat. I hired the Judge Judy of politicians to cut through everything, all the bull crap, and get my money back.
I'm just curious. I agree with you completely, Betty. Not 100, but as I like to say, 1,000%. Betty, let me ask you, when you see the kind of fraud, a lot of it started, obviously, the source was the pandemic. When you see this kind of, this is looting. This is highway robbery. This is pillaging. I'm just curious. You had to work through the pandemic. I had to work through the pandemic. I never stayed home and just, as those state workers were bragging at that tavern that I was at with my kids having lunch in Grace, Tobacco, they're raising their beer glasses, how they stayed home and did nothing. Literally nothing. They were laughing. They were telling me I think it was like an 18-month vacation. They said it's been an 18-month vacation. They go, when we say nothing, we mean nothing. So I think they checked their emails like once a week. That's it. That's it. And they were getting check after check after check after check. All right, so when you hear about these horror stories or how they were scamming autistic kids, or the school lunch program, or Medicaid services, or money that was supposed to go to veterans, or money that was supposed to help drug addicts go, get rehab and get help. I'm just curious. Do you think, A, we'll ever get justice? People will be held accountable? All of that money that was stolen? And do you think we should get justice, or should we just turn a blind eye and forget about it and turn the page?
25, 30 years. It's time. That's why we hired him. Granted, you got to take him with a grain of salt because he's not very diplomatic, but that's why I hired him. I hired a street thug from New York to look at the truth. I don't want a politician looking at me and telling me everything's rosy and stealing from my back pocket at the same time. He won't put up with that. And the only way we're going to get it back, unfortunately, it's not going to happen in the next 4 years, but he's the start of it. And we need to keep electing people like him to get out the rot.
Amen. Betty, I couldn't agree with you more. Betty, thank you very, very much for that call. Look, the question is, again, it goes back to his Justice Department. There's now, look, to be fair, let me just quickly play this cut. Waltz is feeling the squeeze, and Dr. Oz has now come out and said that they're going to start now, if they don't start seeing indictments, if they don't start seeing people go to jail, then according to Dr. Oz, he says, you know what? We're going to start cutting federal funding. Listen now to Dr. Oz saying, we better start seeing people in handcuffs and behind bars. Because if not, I'm telling you, good luck with getting Medicare money, good luck with getting Medicaid money, good luck with all the federal funding that you guys need, because obviously if you have enough that they can steal billions and you guys don't care, then obviously you don't need our money. So now the feds are threatening to cut off all of the Medicaid cash. Roll cut 10, Mike.
When these scammers realized that nobody was guarding the cash register, they went gangbusters. One program designed to provide housing stabilization assistance to patients ballooned to $104 million, when 4 years ago it was projected to cost only $2.6 million. Some of these taxpayer funds may have even ended up in the hands of a Somalian terrorist group. Scary stuff. When CMS became aware of the housing program situation, Minnesota insisted it could clean up its own mess. A few months ago, it admitted it could not. So we stepped in to shut down the fraud-infested housing initiative. Today, we're taking action on more than a dozen other programs, which I've outlined in the post below. Our message to Walsh is clear. Either fix this in 60 days or start looking under your couch for spare change, because we are done footing the bill for your incompetence.
It's about
This
time.
administration will never stop fighting to protect the vulnerable Americans who rely on these programs and the taxpayers who fund them. We're going to crush waste, fraud, and abuse.
From your lips to God's ears. But look, I'm sorry. Yeah, start looking under the couch for money, because you're not going to get it from the federal government. Now, I'm telling you, Waltz can BS the people of Minnesota all he wants with third-party audits, and we're looking into it, and the 90-day investigation period. Notice, it's always 3 months out, 4 months out, 6 months out. Kick the can down the road. And hopefully, by then people will forget about the scandal and move on. So he thinks he's being smart. He's not. So now, when there's no money for the hospitals, and there's no money for Medicaid, and there's no money for health clinics, people are going to look to him and say, why? And what they're going to realize is, the Somalis stole all the money. And now there's nothing left for the people of Minnesota. And I'm telling you, they're going to blame Waltz, as they should. And this is what I've been saying about illegal immigration from the very beginning. Take Massachusetts. If you keep spending $2-3 billion a year, every year, on free catered meals, on hotels and motels and now public housing vouchers of $30K for every 2 years and $4,000 every month in cash assistance, baby, and all the food that they want, and free health care, and free education, and free cell phones, and free cable TV, and on and on. What do you think is going to happen? There's not enough money for the rest of the people who need it. There's only so much money in the pot. If you're giving it away to the illegals, there's not enough left for the people who actually needy, vulnerable Americans who need it. So, look, they got scammed by the Somali community. Now they're getting scammed by the Democrats. And this is why they don't want to have an audit here in Massachusetts. Because I guarantee you, you have an audit, and it's going to be exactly like Minnesota. You're going to be shocked. How many billions? What? Hold on. They're stealing from autistic kids, special needs kids? What? They're stealing from the lunch program? What? Now, maybe here the money won't be going to Somalia. It may be going probably to the Dominican Republic or to God knows where else, to Latin America or whatever. But the point is, the money is not staying here. It's being stolen and it's being siphoned off and embezzled. Now, everybody knows that. It's one of the big secrets on Beacon Hill. And that's why they're petrified of a state audit. And I'm telling you, it's worse in New York. It's even worse in Illinois. And the worst of the worst is California. If this all comes out, the Democratic Party is going to get destroyed. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Tim in Wilmington. Thanks for holding, Tim, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, it's Jim.
Jim, I'm so sorry. I have Tim on the board. Forgive me, Jim.
It's my fault. I had a cough drop in my mouth when I got the phone call. Anyway, listen, it's about a year and a half ago, I'm still reading a book. I look up at my TV. It catches my interest. They're talking about Minnesota. So there was a woman and a reporter and a camera crew. They're in a car. They're in a neighborhood in Minnesota, and they specifically saying this is where the Somalians live. Beautiful homes, 2-car garages. Jeff, these they had their cars outside in the driveway. The weather happened to be nice. There were Range Rovers, Mercedes, all the luxury cars, brand new in their driveways. They then proceeded to another neighborhood in Minnesota, and they specifically said again, these are the people that work. Very small homes, older cars. They're the ones paying for those people. Something's really wrong. The whole country needs an audit. Every state. I don't care if they're red. All the states, but in particularly the blue states, obviously.
Well, look, Jim, we're getting raped. I mean, if I'm going to be brutally honest with everybody, they're coming here like pirates from Somalia. They're plundering. They're pillaging. I mean, they're looting. And there's no limit for them. And they just can't believe how stupid we are. And look, it's a grift. It's a con. And they've realized the ultimate part of their grift. And to be frank, everybody's saying this. Even the whistleblowers said, look, we went to Waltz. We went to Ellison, the AG. We went to everybody. The moment we said anything, they said we're racist. And these were honest state workers. Okay, these were honest people. I mean, I don't know, they may be Democrats or whatever, but they're like honest. In other words, we're here to protect the taxpayers' money. Taxpayers' money, if you're going to go, for a lunch program for kids, it's got to go for lunches for kids. If it's going to be a program to help autistic children get one-on-one help and drive them so they can get a therapist to help them with their autism, then you should be picking them up at their home and driving them to see a one-on-one therapist. Okay? Instead, the whole time the money was being stolen. No lunches, no sandwiches, no help for the autistic kids, nothing. So they're like, this is wrong. So they began to contact these Somali organizations and these Somali NGOs, nonprofits, that were scamming the state. Millions and millions and millions of dollars. Ultimately billions, but per organization, millions of dollars. And all of the whistleblowers said within 30 seconds they screamed racism. It was like somebody gave them a piece of paper, like a talking point. Okay, so when they catch you, and they will catch you, just scream racism, and they'll back off immediately. And all the whistleblowers said, the moment they said racism, their superiors were jumping up and down saying, don't you dare call them, leave them alone. These are black people. These are for people from Somalia. Oh, my God, this is racist, xenophobic, nativist. No, it's theft. It's theft. And frankly, most of those people shouldn't even be in the United States because either they're illegal aliens or they committed visa fraud, like Ilhan Omar. There's a certain point, Jim, where we have to blame ourselves. I know people are trying to blame Somalis, and of course they bear their responsibility. They're the ones scamming. But if you're allowing yourself to be scammed, if you have no self-respect, if you keep allowing somebody to keep breaking into your home and just taking everything that you've worked for again and again and again, then I'm sorry. Sure, I blame the person breaking into your home, but ultimately I'm going to blame you too. Right? I mean, it's just, I'm sorry, like, protect your home, protect your family, protect your spouse, protect your children. Look, I've been to Minnesota. Everybody knows my story. My Ashton is from the land of 10,000 lakes, which has now been turned into the land of 10,000 frauds. That's my miracle from Minnesota. That's what I call my Ashton. Okay? I adopted him when he was 18. Grace and I adopted him when he was 18 months old. I spent months in that state. Really good, decent, salt of the earth people. They work hard. Many of them from Scandinavian stock. 2, 3, 4 generations from Sweden, Finland, Norway, Denmark, Germany, that part of Europe, Northern Europe. I'm telling you, I think they're they love, they're Scandinavians. They like socialism a little too much, I think. Government a little bit too much. Welfare a little bit too much. Fine, I don't care. That's how they are. That's how they are. But they're hardworking, good, decent people. Look, just to give you an example, I could give you a million. When we first adopted Ashton, we had to stay within the state for 30 days. That's just how it is when you adopt, unless the birth mother changes her mind. So you have to give her a 30-day period in case she changes her mind. So Ashton, 18 months, loved mozzarella sticks. Loved them. Couldn't stop having them. We're like, okay, you want mozzarella sticks? I'll get you mozzarella sticks. So we would occasionally go to Applebee's. We went to an Applebee's. There he is, eating a mozzarella stick with the cheese, coming out of his mouth. And this woman, maybe 60 years old, just walked up, saw him, saw Grace and I with him, and she just starts to stroke his head out of the blue and said, he's such a beautiful boy. What's his name? I said, oh, Ashton. And she just pulls out of her purse a $1 bill. Now, this was like 13 years ago. $1 actually got you something then. Whatever, a lollipop, a Tootsie Roll, whatever. In other words, a little something for the kid, a little piece of candy. Here's a little candy for the kid. Okay, buy him a little something. She takes $1 and she puts it in his hand. And she just strokes his head and says, he's such a beautiful boy. She said, please, that's for him. Tell him to get a lollipop or whatever. And I'm like, thank you. I go, man, please, you don't need to do that. No, I insist. And I can't tell you how many times that happened. they would give the shirt off their back. I didn't know this woman. She didn't know me. She didn't know Grace. She didn't know Ashton. They're too nice. There's an expression, Minnesota nice. They're too nice. And they can't imagine that the world is that different from them, that would come there and exploit and take advantage of their generosity. But there's a certain point where, too nice is one thing. Lacking dignity and self-respect is another. They work hard for their money. I work hard for my money. You work hard for your money. I'm sick and tired of these people abusing our taxpayer dollars. Okay, let me ask all of you. Do you think, as the evidence continues to come out, as the fraud gets bigger and bigger, and frankly more shocking and stunning in terms of how rampant, how widespread the theft, the embezzlement, the welfare cheating now is being discovered, do you think anyone will go to jail? Is anyone, and I don't mean the people that have been convicted in court or being charged, these are the people who are mostly Somalis who have been running these NGOs and businesses and organizations. I don't mean people low on the totem pole. I'm talking about Governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, or Ilhan Omar, or the state attorney general, or, in other words, powerful political Democrats. Will any one of them go to jail or be held accountable? 617-266-6868. Maria in Ludlow. Thanks for holding, Maria, and welcome.
Jeff, how are you, honey?
I'm battling a flu, but I'll get through it. Maria, what do you make of this? I know how hard you work. You're a nurse. You put in long, hard hours. This is how our taxpayer money is being abused and stolen. What's your reaction?
I think it's completely disgusting, but I am sad to say that I have a feeling nothing is going to happen, because anything that these Democrats do and then they're exposed, there is no consequences to their actions. Whatever they do, they know they can do, and they will get away with it. All of these Somalis, call me whatever you want to, I don't care anymore. They should be deported. All of them. Enough of this. My son has special needs, as you know. He got kicked out of DDS here in Massachusetts. And my health insurance, as of January 1st, it's going to be $291.76 a week. So I have Mass Health as a secondary insurance for Maximus, because every appointment is $75 copay. So they keep sending me a bill now every month, because now I have to pay Mass Health. And I let them know yesterday that it's never going to happen. I will never pay Mass Health. I pay enough in taxes to cover all of that. And I told them, until every illegal that's on Mass Health, I'm paying for it, then you can give me a call then. And if you, by any thought, decide to take my son off Mass Health, I will go after you with discrimination. I am so sick and tired of these people getting away with everything. Like last night, I had a patient that, no English whatsoever, but the only thing he could say was free care. Free care. I said, oh, yeah, I'm working tonight to pay for that bill. He was looking at me. I'm pretty sure he understood. And somebody was like, that's racist. I said, no, you're the racist. You're the fascist, because you keep taking these illegals over American people. Oh, they're stealing from these children, from special needs children. They're stealing from my son's mouth like from every other special needs child. And I am sick and tired of it, and I'm not keeping my mouth shut anymore. So you are the fascist. You are the racist, because you keep taking over the illegals. They matter, and no American or child with special needs matter over here. So, yes, I hope Tim Walz gets what he deserves. deserves. I hope his behind gets thrown in jail, but it's not going to happen because everybody is an idiot, and there's no consequences. Whatever they do wrong, there's no consequences. I'm still waiting for people to be held accountable, which will never happen in my lifetime, I believe. I'm just sick and tired of it, and I don't want it. I want every illegal to be deported. I'm an immigrant, and I can say that because I did it the right way. I paid a lot of money, like you, to be legal in this country, to become a U.S. citizen in this country. So, no, I don't feel sorry for any of them, even for their kids. I do not. I'm sick and tired of them. I want them all gone because you know what? What's important to me? My children are important to me. My son, as a born citizen of this country, special needs, deserves what it's appropriate for him. And he's not getting it because all the illegals have it.
Well, Maria, very eloquent, by the way, and very powerful. Look, Maria, I'm not trying to pour fuel on the fire, but just so that you know, and I'm sure it's happening in Massachusetts. I'm 1,000% positive, and that's why I want that state audit done. But I can tell you definitively, this is what they did in Minnesota. Members in the Somali community pretended to care for people like your son. And what they would do is they would say, yeah, we are taking special needs children to their doctor's appointments. But in reality, they weren't special needs kids at all. They were people that they were just signing up and giving the parents kickbacks for using their children's name. And then they would claim that they took them to this appointment when they didn't, and they would give false invoices. And they're making money hand over fist. So the state is cutting them check after check after check for appointments that they never took anybody to, never mind special needs kids. And then they did it double as well because they also charged for the transportation for allegedly, taking a special needs child to see the doctor. So they were getting two revenue streams. Okay, we're now starting to see something very similar happen here in New England, up in Maine. As you know, it's not quite as big as the community in Minneapolis, but there is a sizable Somali community in Maine. And now a lot of reports of similar fraud are now coming out. And listen now to this. According to multiple media reports, there is now a top Somali Democrat. His name is Abdullah Ali. He is the CEO of something called Gateway Community Services. Now, you may ask, Jeff, what the hell is Gateway Community Services? It's basically a migrant agency. They are paid to resettle migrants. And then, Somalis, to make sure they're put in public housing or they have access to health insurance or whatever, EBT or welfare or whatever it is. Well, according now to multiple media reports, the CEO, Abdullah Ali, has been caught overbilling the government of Maine. He brings in about $5 million a year. That's just in government contracts. And by the way, these are no bid contracts. He is politically very well connected with the Maine Democratic Party, in particular with Governor Moonbat Janet Mills. And so it has now come out that he's been caught overbilling, listen now to this, by at least $800,000. So he has billed, as I said, the state of Maine, roughly $5 million per year for their version of Mass Health, for Maine Care, for all of Maine Care services, while simultaneously receiving hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in no-bid contracts from the administration of Governor Janet Mills. And now, after having been exposed, he has now put a bounty on journalists who are unmasking and exposing his alleged fraud. He's threatening to kill them. And he's put a bounty on their heads. This is in Maine. In Maine. Okay? Abdullah Ali. Now, I'm staring at a picture of him right now with Governor Janet Mills, and he's in a three-piece brown suit. I mean, he looks like a con man, like a snake oil salesman, with the tie, with the shirt, and he's got this racket down to a T. Now, this is just, I mean, it's small potatoes compared to what we're finding out in Minnesota. But this is the question I want to ask everybody up in Maine, and I want to ask everybody in New England, and I want to ask everybody across the country. How is this diversity our strength? Because that's all you hear from Janet Mills in Maine, or from Joey, or from Kamala Harris, or from the liberal media, or from Tim Walz, or from Ilhan Omar, or from Elizabeth Warren, that apparently having all of these Somalis is just so benefiting to our country. And that diversity, boy, it so enriches the United States of America. We bring them in by the hundreds of thousands from a third world hellhole. And they steal our money, whether it's Medicaid services in Minnesota or Maine Care services in Maine. They rob us blind, line their pockets, and a lot of times send the money back to their Somali warlords back in the old country. And how does this benefit us? How does this make us a better country? A stronger country? A wealthier country? A better off country? The guy's a freaking leech. And he's a criminal. And when he's caught, what's his response? You threaten to murder journalists? You put a bounty on their head? Ay, ay, ay. We need this in the United States of America? Like, that's what we need? So maybe this works in Somalia, where if you expose the corruption and thievery and embezzlement of warlords, they put a bounty on your head and they, shoot you or whatever, or kidnap you and toss you into the ocean. But this is the United States of America. And we don't do that here. And we shouldn't allow it to take root here. Janet Mills is dirty. This guy is dirty. And what you see now is that what's happening in Maine is exactly what's happening in Minnesota. We've got Somali migrants pouring in, unvetted, many of them with committing visa fraud, and they are milking the system dry. They're claiming every benefit under the sun. I bet you half of them, it's massive fraud and false billing. And this guy has been caught overbilling to the tune of nearly $1 million. And that's just what they've exposed on the surface. For him to be threatening to murder journalists, it's much deeper than that. Janet Mills has said nothing. The Maine media is silent like the Minnesota media has been silent. It's a complicity of silence. So, again, you have a massive third world Somali community. They come into your state, and there they are. It's scam after scam after scam after scam. Now, I'm sorry if the truth hurts. Now, I'm not saying there aren't good Somalis, because some of the journalists that exposed Abdullah Ali are Somalis themselves. But they're the honest Somalis. They're saying this is rampant in our community. It's not a one-off. It's systemic, it's cultural, it's widespread. And to their credit, they had the guts to report on it, and now he's put literally a bounty on their heads. So what are we going to have now? Mogadishu stuff? What, Lewiston is now going to be turned into Mogadishu? Is that what we want? Well, we're going to start shooting journalists in the head on the streets? Because they happen to uncover the fact that you're a crook? So, let me throw this log on the fire. I'm sorry to go there, but I have to go there. Is President Trump right? Is it time to start deporting members of the Somali community who clearly are engaging in fraud, corruption, embezzlement, theft, visa fraud, immigration fraud, and now they're putting bounties and threatening to murder journalists for unmasking them? Kick this guy, Abdullah Ali, kick him right out of our country and send him back to Somalia. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. And let me ask, we have a lot of listeners in Maine. Are you seeing on the ground in Maine what many people are seeing in Minneapolis, St. Paul, as regards to the Somali community? Have you witnessed fraud? Are you watching them drive around in BMWs, Mercedes, Range Rovers, living in multi-million-dollar mansions, while they're overseeing so-called nonprofits or organizations that are there to help, whether it's disabled, autistic children, provide services for school lunches? Are you seeing theft and welfare fraud on the ground in Maine? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, a very well-connected, to the Democrats anyway, a democratically well-connected Somali American. His name is Abdullah Ali. He is the CEO of Gateway Community Gateway Community Services. He is in Maine. Gets over $5 million a year from Medicaid, Maine Care as it's called up there, for his migrant care agency that, listen to this, he uses to help build the military and support warlords in Somalia. And Abdullah Ali has admitted this. Governor Janet Mills is enabling it, including, by the way, giving him no-bid contracts and allowing him to keep overbilling to the tune of nearly $1 million. Is it time to prosecute Janet Mills? And is it time to send Abdullah Ali back to Somalia? I say yes. What say you? Jim in Rochester. Thanks for holding, Jim, and welcome.
Jeff, I got a couple of points to make.
Yes.
First off, I have a wonderful person in my life that is a a retired school teacher, and she was never a big union person. She didn't really do much with the union meetings and stuff like that, and kind of stayed out on the outside edge. But after COVID hit, during COVID, they were asked to put up school lunches, deliver lunches to kids who were at home during the school shutdowns, which I thought was very strange. And after COVID was over, when she retired, she said to me, "Boy, I was never really big on the union, but they really stepped up during COVID," meaning there was a lot of money being thrown around by schools, systems, teachers' unions, that type of thing. A lot of teachers were bought out to retire. Here in Rochester, we had 6 teachers retire in 2023. All during the same summer. They were all bought out. there was some sort of meeting between the chairperson of the school committee and these teachers, and all of a sudden these teachers went away. There was an awful lot done with COVID money with the teachers union. There's no doubt about it. And secondly, there isn't there somebody that Maura Healey hired, some no-bid contract with some transportation service here in Massachusetts? The guy got an ungodly amount of money.
Yes.
And you know, that should probably be looked into.
Oh, and everything they're doing regarding the so-called migrants, it's all no-bid contracts. So what they're doing is they're rewarding their friends, their political donors, their fundraisers, people who contribute to them. And the question is, are there kickbacks? Because what they're finding out now in Minnesota is there are a lot of kickbacks. Kickbacks on the ground. Again, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but you know, they're claiming they're helping autistic children, but they're going to parents, families in the Somali community who the kids aren't autistic. They're clearly not autistic, but they go, just sign them up. Like, just put their name down and claim they're autistic so we can bill the government, falsely bill them, and we'll give you a kickback. And it was $1,500 a month. That's just for, you know, for one family. So there's a lot of overbilling. There's a lot of kickbacks. Now we're seeing massive kickbacks, as I said, through Ilhan Omar, her husband's firm. They were handling a lot of this COVID relief fraud. All of this sort of, a lot of the fraud from the COVID relief money. Tens of millions went through her husband's firm. She's now worth $30 million. Connect the dots. So she got kickbacks. A lot of people in Minnesota, politicians, got kickbacks. So I want to know, and that's why they don't want the audit, because the audit's going to show you how extensive and widespread and rampant the fraud is here in Massachusetts. We are talking, if we're looking at $10 billion now in Minnesota, remember, they're 5.8 million. We're over 7 million. They have a one-party state. We have a one-party state. To be fair, though, they elect many more Republicans to their state legislature than we do. So they have even a little bit more oversight, a little more competition from Republicans than we do. Like, to give you an example, Walt's only won by 7 points. You go to play like the state AG, the Secretary of State, they won by less than 1%. In Massachusetts, as you know, the Democrats always win by double digits. So there's even less oversight, less accountability here, and more people. So I would guess we're looking at even more fraud here than in Minnesota. I'd be shocked if there wasn't more fraud. That's why they don't want the audit. If you have that audit, you are going to destroy the Democratic Party here in Massachusetts. Even the Boston Globe, even the local media won't be able to cover it up because it's too big. It's too much money. So that's why, not to toot my own horn, but I'm just being brutally honest, Jim, that's why I am the most dangerous man in Massachusetts for the corrupt establishment, because I'm not the Mass GOP. I'm not the Washington Generals to the Harlem Globetrotters. I'm not paid opposition. That's why they always make sure that the rhinos are taken care of. Flap your mouth a little bit, make a little bit of noise, but don't touch the system. Okay? Be a good little poodle, bark like a little junkyard dog, once in a while, make a little noise, and yes, that's fine. But don't ever challenge the system. Because if you challenge the system, Democrats are going to go to jail. So they control the Boston Herald, which is a feckless, useless newspaper. They control the Mass GOP through Amy Carnevale. Amy Carnevale, in the last election cycle, didn't even put up a single Republican candidate. So what opposition are you? You didn't even put up a single candidate in race after race after race. Her job is to literally take a dive. Her job is to lose. So when a guy like me comes along and says, no, they're stealing from you, the hardworking taxpayer. And this government works for you. You don't work for them. You're not a tax slave. And we need to open up the books. And we need to start putting these people in jail. They want me silenced. They want me gone. They want me off the air. I'm just being brutally honest with you. Because I'm sold for several $100,000. So that's the difference. You have fake opposition, controlled opposition, the class clown opposition. Make a few jokes. It's all fun and games. You know, the hacks. But never challenge the system. And then you have me. And that's why I've been told repeatedly, both the Republicans and the establishment Republicans, the rhinos and the Democrats, want to drive me out of this state. And that's the unholy alliance of the Boston Globe and the Boston Herald. I'm a danger to them because I'm actually serious. And I'll tell you right now, you uncover this fraud and the scale of this fraud, you have a populist working class coalition that will sweep the power. Because I'm telling you, the taxpayers of this state have no clue how they're being swindled and the extent to which they're being swindled. And if they did, Republicans, independents, even many moderates, conservative Democrats would say, out with all the bums. Out. Throw them all out. So, remember, if you kill the voice that speaks the truth, you bury the truth. So, you're completely right. Now, I'm telling you that they were robbing us blind under COVID. What Charlie Baker did to us under COVID was until Maura Healey, he was the worst governor we ever had. I don't care if he had an R next to his name. He was no better than any other Democrat. And the Democrats loved him. Who closed down the churches? He did. Who shut down all of these small businesses, but he kept the big box chains open because they were lining his coffers? He did. He did. You know, if getting COVID is so bad, as they claimed, and this bogus 6 feet distancing, well, what's the difference if you're in a Walmart or a Target or if you're in a small business? But they shut down small business after small business because the big box stores had their hands in his pocket. Who shut down all the schools and the damage they did to those poor kids and their development? He did. The mask mandates? He did. The vaccine mandates? He did. Who fired all those brave nurses? He did. Who suspended all of our civil liberties? He did. Now, amazingly, this one, Hold It Healy, is even worse. I mean, she's obsessed with driving energy costs through the roof to bankrupt everybody. And by the way, she's a liar. Now she's saying, I swear to you, that she never shut down those 2 natural oil gas pipelines. But we have her on tape and in debate again and again bragging that she did it. But now that it's a political liability, suddenly, I never did that. So what I'm saying is, Jim, if the people knew how bad it is, you would see a tax revolt and a political working class populist rebellion that would sweep the corrupt establishment in this state, the Democrats and the rhinos, into the dustbin, and they know it. And that's why they're all petrified now, because this Minnesota scandal is not just for Minnesota. They know it's in California, it's in Illinois, it's in New York, it's in Rhode Island, it's in Massachusetts, it's in Connecticut. Hell, now we're finding out it's in Maine. Maine, for God's sake. So, look, I'm sorry. Open it all up. I want to know how much of our money they've been stealing. And when people realize how much, I'm telling you, you're going to be scandalized. Jim, am I wrong? Final word to you.
Jeff, you're 100% right. The money that they have wasted through COVID is incredible. They need to be audited. And, Jeff, to end with, there's an old saying, you can't rape the willing. And here in Massachusetts and basically everywhere, the new generation, they're not paying attention and they don't care. They're more interested in the score of the game or what they can play video games, what fun they can have. They're not paying attention, and I don't think anything changes.
You know, Jim, you're right, and I just hope your final point you're wrong. I hope you're wrong because we need things to change. Jim, thank you very much. Really powerful call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Linda in Medford. Thanks for holding, Linda, and welcome.
Well, I tell you, we've been going around and around with the Somali stuff now for some time, and I'm getting to the point now, when are you going to arrest them? If they're not going to do anything in Washington, start arresting them, get somebody else in there.
Are you talking about Pam Bondi?
Yes.
Linda, I don't look. I'll be brutally honest. I promise I'll let you finish, Linda. I don't think she's going to be there by next year. I'm going to be. I mean, it's December now. Maybe another month or two. But if she continues to be this feckless and this passive and this ineffective, and look, Linda, I thought Mark in Medford really nailed it. It's true. It's not that she does nothing. That's not true. She does arrest, Mark called them like regular people. In other words, low-hanging fruit. Look, they've got a lot of convictions and arrests in Minnesota. But those are the Somalis, on the ground, the low-level criminals. And it's more and more and more and more. It's going to be thousands. By the time they're done, I'm telling you, it's going to be thousands. They've already gotten dozens of convictions in federal court. So, it's not that she's not arresting people. It's that she's afraid to arrest powerful, influential people, especially Democrats. You can see it. She's afraid. Now, in a way, I don't blame her. I'm going to be honest with you. Because if you arrest a Democrat, it's a declaration of war. They're going to come after you with everything they have. You have any skeletons in your closet? I'm not saying she has. I'm just saying if, I don't know, you had an affair, they'll go, you name it. They'll make up stuff if they have to. They will destroy you. Very few people can take that kind of a pounding, that kind of a beating. Trump is one of them. J.D. Vance is another. Tom Homan is another. They're spitting on Tom Homan. He doesn't care. But that's very few. Most people, for whatever reason, either have something to hide or they're just too thin-skinned, whatever. They just don't want to see themselves dragged through the mud. And in a way, I don't blame them. Who likes to see themselves dragged through the mud? But then you shouldn't be Attorney General. I'm not saying this to be insulting. If you only want the small fish and not the big fish, then it's not for you. This job is not for you. And that's my critique of Pam Bondi. But please, Linda, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go.
I'm not just talking about the Somali situation, which is just so obvious now. But what about Adam Schiff? How long have we been listening to him? And you said it was a hoax. You've been telling us this for about a year or so now, and he's still walking around getting his paycheck. What about Navarro, Carter Page, all of those people? Boy, they got her, and I'm not sure what they did.
See, that's the thing about No, you're right. Look, that's the thing. Well, they put Bannon in jail. Look, they went for the former president and the leading presidential contender of the United States. They were going to put Trump behind bars on nothing. He was innocent. They were manufacturing charges against him. They had to make stuff up to try to put him behind bars. And, you know, they didn't even try to put him behind bars for 5-10 years. In other words, let's just knock him out for the election. No. They wanted him behind bars for half a millennium. For 500 years. I'm telling you, look it up. Mass murderers, serial killers don't get 500 years behind bars. So I've got to say this about the Democrats. They go for your throat. They don't mess around. How many J6ers? I believe the number is almost 1,000? At this time in Biden's presidency, what is it, the first 10 months? Okay, 11 months. I think they put 1,000 J6ers in jail. 1,000. I mean, they were spying. Now we now know it's come out. They were spying on Republican members of Congress and Republican senators. They were spying, checking their cell phones, tracking their movements, surveilling them. They were going to arrest at least 10 to 12 Republican senators over so-called January 6th. Now, there was nothing to get them on because they did nothing wrong, but they were itching to put Republicans behind bars. Our side, you mention arresting anybody, they get weak at the knees. I get email after email after email. These are from Kuhner Country listeners. Jeff, let's put it behind us. Jeff, we got to unify as a country, Jeff. Jeff, this is going to distract from Trump's agenda, Jeff. Jeff, let it go, Jeff. Jeff, it's not good for the country if Democrats get arrested. So you even mentioning just 1, 2, 3 arrests already. They're shaking. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. And I'm not saying go after innocent people. Au contraire, as the French would say. On the contrary. No. Go after people. Ilhan Omar. My God. I'm talking go after people that are guilty as sin, dirty to the bone. No, they get nervous. They get scared. Don't do it, Jeff. Don't do it. So they can arrest us on nothing, on made-up charges, but we can never arrest them? That's why the Democrats think they're above the law. Because in some ways, I hate to say it, they are. I'm going to be honest with you. If I was a Democrat, I'd be doing exactly what they're doing. Who wouldn't? I'd be laughing at I could see them almost like mobsters around the table drinking gin or bourbon and playing cards. Ha 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 ha! What are the Republicans going to do? Ha 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 ha! That's why they hate and fear Trump. Because he's one of the few that's, remember, he's a former Democrat. He fights like a Democrat. He talks like a Democrat. He thinks like a Democrat in many ways. He's not afraid to get his hands dirty and take it to the streets. Okay, he's a street fighter. So they know with him, he's not playing around. He'll put them in jail. Okay, I'm going to lay it out. You're going to find the next few minutes very upsetting, very disconcerting, very disturbing. But if we're not here to speak the truth, then honestly, A, what's the point of me being behind this microphone? And we can't solve the problems affecting our country. The first step towards solving anything is to confront it head on, is to face the truth, not hide from the truth. There are certain cultures and certain peoples from certain cultures that refuse to assimilate to the West. They just do. And you're seeing this in the United States, in Canada, and across Europe. And I want you to listen now to this. This is Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. She's the head of the Progressive Caucus for the Democrats in Congress. She was born in India. Okay? She was born in India. So she's a foreign-born American or naturalized American. She's defending Ilhan Omar, and she's defending the Somali community in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And how is she defending it? I want you to listen. Roll cut 29, Mike.
The majority of Americans across the country, regardless of political party, know that immigrants from all over the world, Somalia, India, wherever they're from, Latin America, Africa, that immigrants have built this country and make this country what it is today.
Now, so what she's saying is that people from the third world built America. That's the multicultural lie. That's the lie that the progressives indoctrinate and brainwash our children in, whether it's elementary school, high school, college, universities. They push it on BS Now or This is CNN or in the New York Times or the Boston Globe. That without third world immigrants, America is nothing. And she's expressing it. Now, let me just say this. First of all, whatever happened to all the Europeans? I mean, I'm just asking. You know, the Scots, the English, the Irish, Scots-Irish in particular, who were fundamental in the founding of our country during the colonies, 1776, and then the waves of German immigration, Irish immigration, Italian immigration, Eastern European, Southern European immigration. I could go on and on. I'm not saying Indians aren't great immigrants. They are. I'm not saying Asians haven't contributed. They have. I'm not saying Latinos haven't. Of course they have. Just as an example, look at the Cuban American community in South Florida. Okay, world beaters. So I'm not, of course. But this is a foreign-born woman. I'm sorry, I have to say it. And she's going to come to the United States, and she's a member of Congress and the head of a powerful caucus, and she's going to lecture us that we need more Somalis, as an example? Or that in other words, we need to bring in more groups who are overwhelmingly Islamic and who have welfare dependency rates of 85, 88, 90%, and who are running scams that are costing this country billions of dollars. So welfare deadbeats and leeches and parasites, that's what built America? That's what we need? I'm just saying, it's absurd. It's insane. It's a lie. But it gets even worse. And I want you to get ready now for this. This is now what many of them say in private, and I know they do. But now they're saying it openly in public. This is Wajahat Ali. Now, many of you are going to say, Jeff. Who the hell is Wajahat Ali? Believe it or not, he is a very prominent, influential voice on the left. He is an op-ed writer for the New York Times. He is a columnist for the Daily Beast. He is a big social media influencer. His parents are from Pakistan, or as Obama would put it, Pakistan. So his parents are Pakistanis. By the way, Pakistanis who were indicted as criminals engaging in white-collar fraud. So his parents, I could give you the whole backstory. I don't want to waste your time. They came here and were caught in a massive fraud scandal to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. Okay? But let that go. Wajahat Ali is trying now to divide Americans along racial lines. And in particular, he's now saying there is a white race that must be destroyed, a brown race, a black race, and an Asian race. And that the brown race is eventually going to dominate all the other races. But in the end, he says the one racial group that must be destroyed and conquered, I swear to you, is the white race. Now remember, this is a top influential thinker on the left for the Democrats, op-ed writer for the New York Times, daily and widely read columnist for the Daily Beast. 617-266-6868. Okay, here it is. Wajahat Ali on a podcast, and he's now talking to white people. Remember, his parents immigrated from Pakistan. They were engaged in a massive fraud scheme. I'm talking tens of millions of dollars. He is a very prominent voice on the left. They love him. He writes for the New York Times. He's an op-ed writer for them. He is a regular columnist for the Daily Beast, which is a key media outlet or website that the left relies on. And he's got a big following. So he sees the world in terms of a racial war in which the brown race, which is really ridiculous because Pakistanis and Indians, for example, yeah, they may have brown skin, but they're basically at each other's throats. Or, you know, what does somebody in Bolivia have anything in common with someone from Pakistan, even though someone in Bolivia may have brown skin? It's identity politics. It's DEI. It's this fake Marxist liberal multiculturalism. Okay, to me it's insane, but it doesn't matter. He's now talking to white people. Now, they're saying the quiet part now out loud. What they say in private, they're now saying in public. And by the way, all white people, everybody, if you happen to be white, this is aimed at you. Roll cut 200, Mike.
You have lost. You lost. The mistake that you made is you let us in the first place. See, that's the thing with brown people. And I'm going to say this as a brown person. There's a lot of us. Like a lot. There's like 1.2 billion in India. There's more than 200 million in Pakistan. There's like 170 million in Bangladesh. Those are just the people there. I'm even talking about the folks who are expats or immigrants. There's a bunch of us. And we breed. We're a breeding people.
So you lost. You should never have allowed us in because we're going to take over. This is what he's saying. And we breed. We breed. We breed. We breed. In other words, by having more children than you, demography will be destiny. Now, he continues, okay, and he says, it all goes back to Ted Kennedy and the 1965 Immigration Act. He goes, you guys were so stupid because then you unleashed the floodgates to massive, almost unlimited third world immigration. Roll cut 201, Mike.
And the problem is you let us in 1965. There were a few of us beforehand, but once you let one of us in, you know what happens with brown folks? Our grandmother comes, our grandfather comes, our uncle comes, our aunt comes, our cousin comes, our second cousin comes, our third cousin comes. Then we have kids, a bunch of kids. And then guess what? Some white women, you know, the Western civilization women, the pure women, the American women, quote unquote, the Rust Belt women, the real women, they like some of us brown folks. We don't take them. They come to us.
So now we're taking your women. Okay? Your women can't, you know, they find us irresistible. So now we're taking over your country and we're taking over your women. He goes, and I want you to know now that we're not going anywhere. Listen now to Wajahat Ali. This is brown supremacy. This is racial supremacy. If you flipped it, if a white person spoke like this, to black people, brown people, Asian people, I mean, it would be a hate crime, my God. I mean, he'd be fired from every job. He'd be driven out of respectable society. This guy, he's more popular now than ever. So here it is. Roll cut 202, Mike.
So we're embedded. We are everywhere. We are everywhere. I've traveled this country. I'm going to speak as a brown person. Brown people are everywhere. There will be a Patel Motel or there will be a Desi restaurant everywhere. I want you to realize this. You have lost.
Okay, I'll be honest. I don't know what a Desi restaurant is. I don't. Sorry, no mean to offend anybody. I don't. I don't know what a Patel Motel is. Is that what, owned by an Indian? Is that, I don't know. But anyway, so he's basically saying we're going to buy up everything. We're going to have your women. We're taking over your country. Now, listen to what he says about America and American culture, American food, and the American story. Listen now to the contempt that he has for us. Roll cut 203, Mike.
Your story is a story filled with misery. It's filled with bland chicken. It's filled with terrible, terrible dry ass meat. Your music sucks. All your culture sucks. Nobody. That's why the kids like listen to black people and their music. That's why the kids love Latinos. Your parties suck because they're monochromatic. Our parties have better food, better music, better looking women.
Now, this is the problem. He's not the only one. You should see the reaction to his podcast when he said all this. How many moonbats, how many liberals cheered him on? Our music sucks. Our food sucks. Our women suck. Our men suck. Our culture sucks. Our parties suck. Everything about us suck. So why are you here? I mean, I'm sorry, but you asked the question. You opened the door. I'm going to go through it. So if Pakistan is so great, why did your parents leave Pakistan? And if we're so, I can't say it. I'm going to clean it up. If we're so happy, then why are you here? No one's putting a gun to your head and leaving you here. I can't even spell that. Okay, so I spelled it and they probably dumped it. Anyway, so, if we're such a crappy people, then what are you doing here? Because I'll tell you why. Because you would be a loser in Pakistan. Because if you spoke like this about Pakistan, if you went to Pakistan and said, your music sucks, your women sucks, your religion sucks, your faith sucks, your country sucks, everything about you sucks, you know what? They'd either kill you, imprison you, hang you, or kick you out. I'm just being honest. But you see, you come here. Your parents, by the way, commit fraud, multi-million dollars worth of fraud, but you still have the nerve to dump on white people, every white person. So you're not only ignorant and stupid, but you're a racist to boot, an actual true racist. Now, my larger point is just this, because I know many of you are going to say, Jeff, he's an idiot. Yes, he's an idiot. But that's how many of these leftists think. Is he here to assimilate? No, he's openly telling us. Is here to get along? No, he's openly telling us. He's telling us we're here to conquer. We're here to take. We hate everything about you. Now, let me ask you, why are we bringing these groups into our country? And by the way, this is what they say in Paris, on the streets, in open, in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, in Berlin, in London. I could go on, in Rome. Literally, word for word, except just substitute, German or Italian, Germany, Spain, Italy, the Netherlands, Britain for America. That's it. Just change the name of the country, and it's the same rant. It's literally the same rant. You suck, your women suck, your culture sucks, your food sucks, your heritage sucks. It all sucks. Now, this is an unpleasant truth, but it is the truth. A cohesive nation, you must have a common language, a common religion, a common culture, a common heritage, a common love for your country. If you do not have this, You have balkanization. You don't have a country. What you have are groups warring at each other's throats. And that's what these idiots are now bringing into our country. The Somalis are not here to assimilate. The Pakistanis, the way this guy's talking, are not here to assimilate. Some are. Most are not. So my question to you, why are we bringing them in? If this is their attitude, if they're here to subjugate us, to exploit us, to literally, as he puts it, take us over, to conquer us, to destroy everything that we've built as a country because he spits on it. It's a quote, I got to clean it up. It's a crappy story. Your whole story is a crappy story. Kenny in Weston. Thanks for holding, Kenny, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Again, every time you always the best show ever. I got to tell you.
Thank you, Kenny.
You hit on all cylinders, my friend. And what I mean, I talked to somebody was very influential in the Biden administration. Very good on finance, blah, blah, blah. And one of my clients, and I'm not going to mention the name, but, we had talked about when Elon was doing his, the Doge. And her response was that, well, it's just the way he's going about it, And very smart, very well. And the thing I look at from a layman's term was, well, wait a minute. Okay, that being said, where was the oversight? I'm talking Democrats, Republicans. I mean, you mean to tell me I said Trump and Elon Musk to come in to kind of like expose this after all these years? No, nobody knew. Nobody knew nothing about USAID. And, you sit back from a lake and you just say it doesn't pass the smell test. But I'm going to tell you, they're very masters at, just like this, what's going on in Minnesota. They'll somehow or another, like you used a great word last week, deflect. They'll deflect. They'll turn this into every kind of race card. You name it. They'll have the media on the side. Somehow, even, they'll just somehow or another, deflect the story and kind of make it look like it's like Elon. They made it look like he was the bad guy. I said, for what? I've had this conversation with so many people. I said, what is he doing wrong? I don't get it. Aren't you a taxpayer? I mean, shouldn't you be concerned? I just don't get it. And if people need to be fired, what would you do in a regular company? I mean, it's funny. People just believe what the news, and oh my God, and then they'll portray somebody out there losing their job, and I couldn't do. Give me a break. I mean, we've all been fired, right? Everybody has at one point. But when you're not doing your job,
look, you're right. This is the greatest weapon that the Democrats have, is their control of the elite establishment media. And I bring it back to COVID. I've never seen such fear-mongering in my entire life. Maybe the Russia collusion hoax was close. But the way they made it seem that everybody was going to die, that we were looking at tens and tens of millions of people dying, that this was the worst virus in the history of humanity. And I mean, it's so easy to poke apart. I'm going back several years now, but I remember, I was on the air and I said, you mean what, worse than the Black Death? What, worse than the influenza epidemic that broke out after World War I? The ridiculous fear-mongering, the panic porn. Look, and the reason why I say this, I went to the grocery store. This was on Saturday. I'm still seeing, this is at my local Stop and Shop, I'm still seeing people wearing masks. Those replacement masks. I still see them. And by the way, they're garbage. I mean, they're literally, by the way, they're all made in China, but let that go. They're useless. They're useless. Okay? Even the CDC now admits those replacement masks, they're useless. I mean, air goes in everywhere. any kind of a virus. I mean, it's got so many spots you can just go right on through. It's completely useless. But it doesn't matter. They're convinced they have to have the mask. They have to have the mask. And we're talking now, what are we, 4 years now? Going? Maybe 5 next year? Going on the so-called COVID pandemic? So this is the number that they did on the American people, the fear that they instilled. And that's how they were able to get everybody so petrified that they were able to pass all of this fraud and corruption, and I mean hundreds of billions of dollars, which, by the way, led to massive inflation. This is the reason why we're living with all this inflation today. But it doesn't, and so much of it now has been stolen, and now we're realizing not just stolen, it's been sent to foreign countries all over the world, including Somalia. So, no, this is a Biden scandal. This is a Democrat scandal, and it's time that we open the whole thing up. Kenny, as always, thank you so much for that call. Anne-Marie in Maine. Thanks for holding, Anne-Marie, and welcome.
Oh, for long-time listener, first-time caller.
Welcome,
I'm glad
Anne-Marie.
to finally get on the air with you. But a few things here, Jeff, up in Maine. You definitely touched on it, and let me just pull over because I'm in the car. But the fact of the matter is we have a governor up here who's out of control. There have been stories that she is getting people, migrants, certified for state health care, right, getting their status, and then switching it because she wants to get the federal funding and not have it fall on the back of all Maine people. So that's a problem. That story is breaking. All right? Are you there?
I'm listening to every word, Anne-Marie.
Okay, so that's big. That's a story that's out there, and it's going to break, and it's going to expand. Because
Well, Anne-Marie, I ran out of time. I can't believe it. Anne-Marie, she's a crook.